What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Ableton Music Producer Podcast. This is Dan, as always. Today's special guest is extra special. I've been wanting him on the podcast for a while now, and we are going to be chilling with Dylan, aka ill.Gates, which most of you have probably heard of. But he's a brilliant producer, educator, Ableton Live user, obviously. So he's going to drop a lot of great wisdom for us on this episode. We're going to talk about his favorite plugins, different sampling techniques, his insights on being inspired and producing and finishing more tracks. He shares a little bit of an unreleased track and another track he made with a bunch of chickens and fart samples. It's going to be great. But before we get started, today's episode is sponsored by Melodics. Shout out to our friends from melodics.com. They make a desktop app that you can download. You can plug in almost any MIDI controller you want and practice your keyboard. You can practice your finger drumming. You can practice using an electric drum set if you have one. There's a lot of stuff in there. But they have some really fun lessons and a wide variety of songs that you can learn from at different skill levels to step up your practicing and have a good time while doing it. Check that out, melodics.com, free trial, but also check out the subscription plan, and you can save 20% by using the discount code LPO-20. That's LPO-20. Thanks for listening to the podcast, everybody. If you want to be the first to hear new episodes, go to liveproducersonline.com/newsletter. You'll be the first to know when new podcast episodes come out, and I'm going to give you some free gifts along the way with Ableton Live packs, samples, and other cool stuff. Also, before we dive in, I want to let you know if you want to watch the video of this, Dylan actually shares his screen in a couple different things. You might check out the YouTube channel. It's just Live Producers Online. Look for the LPO logo, and you can watch an actual video of Dylan and I just chilling on Zoom during this conversation. So be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and all that other stuff. Thanks, everybody, for the support. Much love, and here's today's podcast with ill.Gates. You're having a good hair day, cool. That's for sure.
Yeah, my wife hooks me up, man. Just got a free hairdresser. All
yeah,
it cost me was my soul.
Yeah, shameless promo with the producer hat.
Oh yeah, all day.
Yeah. Love it, dude. No, I've been loving the stuff you've been cranking out. I get all your emails. We actually met, if you remember, in Indianapolis like a year and a half ago.
Oh, right on. Okay, cool. Yeah, oh, yes, that's right. At that workshop with Bill.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been meaning to come on your podcast.
That was a great show. Yeah, no, I was like hounding you then. I was like, yeah, we should join the podcast, dude. It's going to be a good time. And you're like, yeah. But you were in the midst of like a billion things like you always are.
Oh, God. Yeah, moving, dude, losing the fucking dojo HQ is so sad.
Man, I'm sorry.
Sad.
That's wild. Yeah, because you recently moved back to your hometown, Toronto. Right?
No, I moved to Vancouver. I didn't want to backtrack. I felt like going to a new city was the thing. Like I wanted to go somewhere new and exciting and fun. And I'd always wanted to live in Vancouver, and I have lots of family and friends here. So it's amazing. I just wish I could have taken the dojo with me, but that fucking neighborhood went to hell.
Yeah, like a lot of places in LA right now.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like there was an outbreak of the Black Death of Middle Ages fame in the neighborhood next to mine, Skid Row, where all the homeless people are. And we have a rat terrier, which are dogs famous for hunting and killing rats. So we'd be walking our dog around the neighborhood, and she would take off to try and kill rats. And we'd be like, don't kill that rat, Daisy. You're going to give us all the Black Death. And that was like a real concern we'd have with our little stroller, pushing our stroller through like pyromaniac homeless people.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's wild. Time to go. That's when you know it's not a good family neighborhood to be hanging out. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fine. Because when we moved there, we weren't pregnant or anything. And then it just like, we were trying, but we didn't think it was going to happen. And then it did. And we were like, okay, now we have a baby in the fucking ninth gate of hell.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's adorable though, at least. Like, and I love all the posts that you have with her, like dancing to your music. It's great.
Yeah, she rages, dude. She was headbanging to Nazi punks "Fuck Off" last night, and I was like, probably shouldn't post that. It's a little too much swearing, and
she's just in her pink dress, just like all happy. It's like innocent.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
She rages.
So did you teach her like most of the dance moves, or did her mom like?
No, she just kind of just started doing it. We're just like, okay,
sure. Natural, instinctive dancer.
Yeah, well, she can't talk yet, so it's kind of hard to teach her much of anything.
Yeah, it's all interpretive, really, at this point.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But she's got a couple words, but I don't think she understands that like it takes a while for babies to develop what they call concept of mind. So like she doesn't understand that like I have a different perspective than her and that I have a different mental life. Like it's all just one big thing when you're that age.
Yeah. Yeah. Those were the good old days before reality kicks in.
Yeah.
You have to be a grown up. But yeah, dude, thanks for joining the podcast, and let's talk more about you and what you have going on right now.
Okay, sure.
For anybody who doesn't know Dylan, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, Dylan produces under ill.Gates. According to your words on your site, you're a bass dropping, educating, oscillator modulating space genius from the future. So that alone's pretty impressive. But you've been DJing since you were like 13. You have a long career in the music business. You're well known for your teaching. I've watched a lot of your Ableton tutorials. You've collaborated with some really dope artists like Closey, Excision, Beats Antique. I could just keep going. But you also teach through Producer Dojo, your website, and have a label now through that.
Yes. Yeah. Guys, I mean, it's been a long journey. I never thought that this was going to be like my career when I started out. Like it was totally just like, I just did it because I loved it. And I was in art school. So I thought I was going to do like graphic design or something. And me and my art collective, we would go out to these underground, like kind of illegal raves and squat parties and stuff back in Ottawa when I was a kid. And I was just like, man, this is cool, but it's kind of like a little bit like mindless hedonism when it's just like people listening to fucking repetitive uns all night and taking pills. Like they should switch up the music a bit and maybe have some art here and there.
Yeah.
And the promoters were like, well, quit complaining and do something about it. We were like, okay. So me and my friends started like a party deco art collective where we would build like, robot sculptures and do graffiti demos and breakdancing and shit. And then I ended up kind of worming my way onto the lineup because we made ourselves useful. And we'd be like, yeah, if you want us to do, graffiti up your party and stuff, you got to give me a time slot. So I just kind of did it to blow off steam and for fun with my friends and stuff because I was always drawn to it. But everyone around me was like, DJ, because DJing, like you wouldn't even do underground electronic music in a club back then. Like it was like, there weren't any concerts, you could never play like, it was like basically illegal parties only. And, and music festivals, but even the music festivals were like sketchy, like it wasn't like it is now. Like there's no like LED walls and all that. It was like pretty underground back then.
Like hanging stuff by bed sheets and shit. Like
yeah, totally. Like slide projector visuals and stuff. Like
nice.
Yeah, it was old school. So I never really thought it was going to become my job, and then just like, I just did it all the time, and it just slowly ate my life. And then next thing you know, it's like, 15 years later and I'm here. So yeah, it's been a minute.
So in that process, like how did you get introduced to Ableton and when did you start using it?
I started Ableton in version 4 and I was introduced to it by a guy named Superstyle Deluxe, who is a breakbeat producer from the UK. Yeah. And we were hanging out at his house and he showed it to me and I was like, oh, wow, this is like music Lego. Like, this is so fun. I love the way it's all like, looks like candy and everything plugs into everything else all nicely. Because I was coming from using Logic and Cubase, and back then in Cubase, like warping and time stretching weren't that great. And like you couldn't rearrange the order of your plugins or have like a parallel process that goes back into a non-parallel process like you can in Racks or anything.
Wow.
Like none of that was possible. So, producing music would take so long. And then, I just like after chilling at Superstyle Deluxe's house, I came back to North America and I was like, I'm going to fire up Ableton and see. And like I literally played my first gig 2 days later, like on Ableton. I was just like, nice. I'll just DJ just with the QWERTY keyboard. Sold. I don't care. I love this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I had the opposite experience. I was like, what the hell is this? And it took me like forever to figure out how just to get sound out of it, like 10 years ago. And then like after a while playing with it, you just get all these happy accidents along the way and fall in love. That was my love story with Ableton. But yeah.
Yeah,
But
I think I would probably it would have been different if it was my like earlier on, but I had started on Impulse Tracker. And well, I started on the MPC, but my first like
classic.
computer DAW was Impulse Tracker, and then from there, Acid Pro, Sony Acid Pro,
Yeah.
and that was really cool because the audio editing and the time stretching, like the automatic time stretching all your loops, was incredible. You know, because
Nice.
before that, like on the MPC, let's say you had a bunch of loops playing and you wanted to change the BPM, if those loops weren't chopped.
Yeah.
Everything would
Just
go
like,
out of time.
Just yeah.
Like, yeah, it was terrible. So I used Acid Pro, and then from Acid, you know, I wanted to add MIDI, so I used Reason to add MIDI parts in FL Studio, and I was just like, this is this weird combo. Like, surely there's a DAW that could do all that. So then I started using Logic, and then I was on Windows then, and Logic they stopped making it for PC. So I switched over to Cubase, and then I did my last Fat Conductor album on Cubase, and then started using Ableton. So it was like I was really used to seeing the same concepts expressed so many different ways that when Ableton came around, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. Like they've fixed all these problems that were driving me fucking crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So still not the pitch bend one though.
The pitch bend
still gets stuck.
Yeah, no, it does on the push too. Yeah, that's a struggle.
That you know how you do it?
User mode?
Modulate the transpose. Use the pitch bender.
Yes.
Completely sidestep the pitch bender and modulate the transpose. In
That's
either
true.
or simpler or sampler, the transpose does not step, and you can modulate it. And get, as long as your clip is not warped, you get perfectly clean pitch bends, but you can specify the depth on the fly. So you can do like a 1 semitone pitch bend, and then later in the track you can do a 48 semitone pitch bend and have just as precise control.
Are you in the Ableton Certified Trainer Facebook group?
I am not certified.
Okay. Well, I knew that, but
supported by Ableton, but I have never taken the time off the road or whatever to go get the certification.
It's funny how many people have said that on this podcast that I've met, actually. We're just like
Bill's
thing.
Not certified either.
Right. Yeah, it might as well be, though. But honestly, that's funny because that was that thread that was floating around in the Facebook group last week. So I thought that might have been why you brought that up.
No.
But no, that's the thing.
There was a guy who brought it up on Reddit, and I answered it, and he was like literally just told me to fuck off. And I was just like, wow, like I just totally solved your thing for you and you're angry.
Yeah. It's just a salty person. I don't know. Yeah. Best of luck.
Some people don't like being told that they're doing it wrong, I guess.
That's true. Yeah.
There's like, because you can modulate the transpose on a clip, but you always get the stepping because they don't let you modulate an unwarped clip, and they don't let you modulate the transpose on a clip on repitch. And I was hoping that they would let you modulate the transpose on the repitch, and then it would just get longer.
Yeah.
That would work.
Well, I mean, there's going to be the ability to modulate unlinked clips and unwarped clips, I believe, in 11.
I'm on 11. It's pretty sick, but you still can't modulate unwarped clips.
Oh, really? See, I was told that was a feature that they were going to release for 11, and I don't know. Apparently, it never did.
Let me try.
I believe you. I totally believe you.
But I'll fire up 11. I'm pretty sure you still can't.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been producing.
Yeah, I'm like
11. It's been pretty fun.
Oh, it's been great. I love 11. Yeah, what are some of your favorite updates with 11? Let's go there.
Comping, because my God, did I ever have workarounds for that?
For real.
So yeah, comping, definitely a big thing. I'm really, really into the new effects, like the spectral effects.
Yeah.
Still no modulating.
Okay. Well, I lied then. I just lied on my podcast. Cool.
Lying to the world.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I take that back, everybody. Apologize.
It would be very cool, though.
That would be really cool.
But yeah, so the comping's huge, and the spectral resonators and delays are holy shit amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that they redid the chorus and the redux effects.
Same.
Those and the flanger, the new flanger and stuff sounds great because that was always like I don't know, like the surgical approach that Ableton took with their plugin design, I felt was very appropriate for something like a compressor or an EQ because a good deal of the time you do not want the compressor or EQ to color the sound in any way. Right. So having a completely transparent option for those is good. But then when you apply that same transparent sort of mathematical approach to something like a phaser or a flanger or a chorus or bit reduction, there's like you use those effects because of the character that they impart. So I think it's worthwhile to invest some time and energy in like active nonlinearity and having a pleasing coloration of the sound that happens. Because like I use the Otto Biscuit software emulation from UAD anytime I want to do bit reduction, and that bit reduction fucking sounds insane. It's like the
UAD is what's up. I'm in that UAD family too. I love their shit. It's so good. Yeah, it really is. The note echo is pretty cool too with MIDI effects.
Note echo and probability events. I've always been into generative music, so probability stuff I'm pretty
yeah. No, but you're right. Like audio effects got a huge facelift for 11. That made me and a lot of people happy. And the hybrid reverb, I think, sounds incredible too.
Yeah, really, really nice. Really, really nice. And I just like, like when I'm doing sound design, I try to stick to mostly the Ableton native effects simply because it, like, if you, like, let's say that you were to use a bunch of really big, heavy, fancy UAD plugins and you did not resample it. When you have them early in the chain, you're kind of like committing yourself to this huge amount of processor load and latency later. Like I usually, like if I'm not resampling, I'm using the leanest effects that I can because I like to use my hands. And lately I've been using the MPC inside of Ableton instead of drum racks. Because you can always just edit, like it's just there. You don't have to go select your drum rack channel and then call it up on the push and then edit. It's always there.
Yeah.
And I really like, there's some features in the MPC that still do not exist in Ableton or Machine or anywhere else. For example, each pad has an offset whereby you can make it happen late. So you can be drumming on the beat and your sounds happen slightly after the MIDI note. That shit fucking sounds so brain feeder, flying lotus. Like
it's like a little flam type of thing.
Yeah, but you don't hear it. Like the initial MIDI note, there's silence and then back. So I'll do that with delays a lot. Yeah, like I'll take a delay, put wet dry all the way up, feedback all the way down, and then no input processing. Like a lot of delays will have a high pass, low pass filter for input processing, so that you can differentiate the delayed signal from the dry signal. So you turn all that processing off, just go all the way wet, feedback all the way down, and then you use like a value in milliseconds to make whatever your sound is off the grid. Yeah. Because one of the biggest problems that you have when mixing a track is that all the transients are exactly mathematically perfectly on top of each other. Yeah. So you have the loudest portion of every sound happening at the exact same fucking time. And if you listen to like I mean, like in the 80s and 90s, people were ripping their hair out trying to get precise MIDI timing like that. And like when you're doing sound design, you want things to hit at exactly the same time, and you want to have that level of control. But the grooves that you get, like once you learn to work with offset, not swing, because swing moves the whole grid to go book-a-dicky-dack-a-dicky-dook-a-dicky-dack. But the transients are still exactly on top of each other. But once you start offsetting the transients, like you can do a track delay, but track delay adds loads of latency to your project. So I like to either do it with the delays or by actually offsetting inside the MPC. Yeah. And I just like using my hands. And anytime, because even a lot of the Ableton devices will add tiny little bits of latency. And like, let's say you have a bass sound that has a lot of processing on it. I know, radical idea, but let's say you have a bass sound with lots of processing on it, and you want it to be sidechained by a kick sound that has almost no processing on it, right? Well, if that bass sound has, let's say, 75 milliseconds of latency added by the cumulative effect of all of those plugins, Ableton's going to have to slow that kick down by 75 milliseconds before it activates the sidechain. So when there's all these different chains and they're interacting, especially through sidechains, the whole thing just starts slowing down and slowing down and slowing down. So I normally like to have my sidechains very late in the process, like at the group stage, often, or before they had groups in groups, I would route all of my groups that I wanted sidechain to go through a send.
Oh, yeah.
Sends are at the end of the order of operations, right? It goes like, MIDI input, MIDI plugins, MIDI instrument, effects, groups, and then whatever groups are inside of groups, etc., nested groups. And then they meet up with the sends.
And the master.
So if you send a bunch of groups through a send and have the sidechain there, it's like you're minimizing that slowdown that happens because of the order of operations. So yeah, but yeah, so that's a really long explanation with bonus info about why to use only native plugins early in the chain, because
free content.
Slow things down early in the chain, it slows everything else down.
Yeah, but that's a real thing.
I use fancy plugins when I'm making samples though.
Yeah. Well, and you make a lot of mud pies, so you probably end up flattening a lot of that processing down to audio anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yep. So for people who don't know what a mud pie is, like maybe explain that.
Okay, so I actually first learned of this concept from Skinny Puppy back in the early 90s.
It's great.
They had an album called Brap. Yeah, Skinny Puppy, they were like industrial before industrial was anything, like before Nine Inch Nails. They were in the like psychic TV kind of like proto, like, you know, when they were making industrial with fucking crayons and rocks and sticks and shit, right? But they're really amazing. They were doing full on audio video shows where they're like crazy animal rights activists, like covering themselves in fake blood and showing people factory farming footage, and like the snare drum would be like anvils and stuff. Like it was crazy fucking music. Like their shows were scary and intense,
really trippy.
Yeah, and yeah, they're actually the guitarist William is like a good friend of my wife. He's fucking genius guy. He actually works on the Food Network. He was like doing that Weirdest Restaurants show and like a bunch of other.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, he's a really good film director. He does a lot of cool music videos and shit too.
Nice.
Anyway, they had an album called Brap. And they, you know, in the liner notes of the album called Brap, and Brap was like, you know, some of their weirdest music, but also like outtakes and studio kind of like, you know, offcuts and stuff in it. And in the liner notes, they explained that a Brap was part of their process where they would get high, because they were heroin addicts. They would get high, record, and then deal with the recordings later. Right? So that was kind of their like, there was like a jam, but a recorded jam where the objective was to just get as fucking crazy as they possibly could and just make the wildest, most insane sounds and like try and break all of their technology.
That sounds like some horrible post mixing that would have to occur.
Well, no, but the thing is, then you would take that and use that as your sample material.
Yeah.
Because there's a tendency, if you're not partaking in these sort of recorded extreme, you know, technology abuse sessions, you end up making very conservative sound design decisions, because you're like, okay, well, this is my bass patch. I don't want to break it, so I'm not going to like do anything extreme to the knobs. I'm going to try not to move anything around. I might make tiny little increments to perfect it, but don't want to fuck it up.
Yeah.
And then you end up with these really, like, because a lot of time too, like let's say you're using presets and you load up a preset. Chances are the person who's made that preset tried a lot of the adjacent variants and found that they just weren't as good. And that was the best state they could get it in, and then they hit save. So when you load that thing up and you're like, let's try and make some different versions of this, a lot of the time the kind of like adjacent mutations are not that great.
Yeah.
And you end up sticking with the preset because if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Right? Then your music sounds like a big old pile of presets.
Yeah.
And that's boring.
Yeah. It's like Splice land now, pretty much. Everybody's living it. I've heard so many samples. It's like, yeah, I heard that in Splice.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So, so these sessions, I call them mud pies because that's like, brap is kind of like a word that doesn't really mean anything outside of the skinny puppy context. I think when you call them mud pies, people are like, oh, you're supposed to play around and make a mess. I get it. Like it's kind of says what it is.
Yeah.
I like that, So, so I'll make mud pies. And when I'm making mud pies, like, cause I love modular synths, there's no presets over here. Like it's it. There's no way to recall fucking anything. Like,
when you're there, you're there. There's really no going back.
Record it or it's gone.
Yep. That's why I love my Moog Sub 37 is because it's got that beautiful hybrid. I could pull up those presets that I wanted before and then snap those knobs back.
Yeah, and they sound so good.
She's thick. She's a thick girl. Yeah. She sounds nice. I love this thing. Bass wobbles all day. But yeah, you got some beautiful racks there, man.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked. I'm actually just about to put everything into a server rack to save space. Yeah, I want to have this as my controller keyboard, like on a keyboard stand, and then have everything in like a floor to ceiling server rack because I have like hardware mixer that I want to get in here, and then Novation are sending me the last Aphex Twin bass station. Oh.
Whoa, nice. Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited, man. Yeah, they saved me the last one.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, those things are really fucking amazing because I mean the bass station is already great. And then they had the Aphex mode on the bass station whereby each key becomes its own patch with instant recall.
It's amazing.
So you can make like a drum kit with like fucking, like 32 patches or whatever, and then like
just rock it out all day. Yeah.
And then they're like, well, that's cool enough that we need a purple one with the Aphex Twin logo on it. And I think that was a great decision. I fully support that.
Well, yeah, especially now. So you talked about the mud pies. I also love your infinite drum rack. That was a staple.
Oh yeah, the 128s. That was my early claim to fame.
Yeah, it really was. It still is, man. Because I actually stole that idea, and that's my birthday gift, or I'm sorry, Christmas gift to all of my students. Is I just made like an infinite drum rack, and I'm going to be sending it out with love and care, thanks to you.
Yeah. So that the technique is basically you avoid going through sample folders. Because it's time consuming and it's just the wrong context to decide what your track needs usually. Like it's one thing if you're digging for like records or you're digging for like vocal samples or something, but if you're digging through kicks, holy moly, that is just ruin your session.
It's the worst.
So, what you do is you get a sampler. Any sampler will do. I use the Ableton sampler, but any sampler will do. You take the whole folder, you put it in the sampler, you split them one per key, and then you save it. And the next time you need a kick, you load that one in and you get a whole menu. Sometimes you'll use them in a drum rack and sometimes you'll use them just on a channel. I find if you're making the real trap shit, having just a 128 full of hi-hats as just its own channel is really nice because then you can like go back and forth between different hi-hats.
Yeah.
I also find if you're trying to make like a scrambly sort of a patch, you want to have like some random sample selecting, I will split the 128 by velocity, right? So like, let's say you want it to be random but repeatable, right? Because there's this thing called a Turing machine that is often, like you hear it a lot in like the old school, like modular shit, but basically it is a machine that is constantly generating a random voltage. And if you take that random voltage and you run it through a scale quantizer, it'll give you a random series of notes. And then the idea is that you crank it and it's just making and then you're like, wait, I liked that one. And then it holds that pattern. And then you have a bar that was randomly generated that you've now selected, right?
Nice.
So when you're working, like let's say you have a 128 with a bunch of different like laser blips and bloops and stuff, I find that if you split them by velocity, you can use the velocity randomness. And if you're recording the MIDI, that MIDI will play back exactly the same.
Nice.
So then you can have a repeatable randomness, which is nice.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's brilliant. And you did a similar thing with like the arpeggiator and like a hi-hat drum rack. I saw you do a video about that.
Yeah.
Where it just keeps spitting out different like velocity, or not just velocities, but different hi-hat samples like one by one. Sounds really cool.
Totally. And then also I tend to combine these two, like the resampling techniques, like when I'm making drum kits. Actually, here, I'll just share my screen. Oh, you've disabled screen sharing.
Oh, we can fix that in about 5, 4, 3. There you go.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to share my screen. We'll go into Ableton. So I use a synth that I call Goldzilla. And Goldzilla is a black and gold SH101. And
nice.
One of the original ones from before MIDI was a thing. And
it's been a while.
Yeah, it sounds great. Like the actually, here, let's see if I can change. I need to adjust a sound card here, or my settings in loop back. Let's go take number 2 and go like that, so we get stereo. Is that going to let me do that? I'm getting mono. So anyway, so this is a drum kit that I made from Goldzilla, and you can see here, like for example, when I was designing this kick sound, I made a kick sound here. Let's just show in the browser. I'll make a sample that looks something like this, where you have just like an increasing decay or something, whatever parameter you want to modulate. So I have right?
It's starting to sound like a whale call.
And when you have something like that in a drum kit, instead you split the drum kit by transients, right? You can see that these are all split by transients. And then when you change the note, or I can select my kick here by here. Can you hear that? I got just do. Okay, it's going to loop back good. I can't hear it, but you can. But when I'm changing the MIDI note here on this channel, if I select a different MIDI note, I can get different chops inside that sample.
Okay.
So then basically your long recording becomes essentially like a 128.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Within the same sound. So I find that resampling technique really useful, not just with hardware synths, but with soft synth or whatever. I'll just like find a sound and then just make like a ton of different variations. And especially if it's with a parameter like the decay, which is kind of an obvious one to use, or like the, I'll have it split by velocity. So like the harder you hit it, the longer the decay is. Another really fucking incredible thing that the MPC does is it links the attack time to velocity. Is one of the default routings in the mod matrix. So let's say you have a hi-hat. When you play the hi-hat gently, it sounds more like a shaker and that doesn't have a transient. And then when you play it hard, you get a sharp transient. So the velocity becomes like a transient modulation.
That's interesting.
Really fucking useful with drums.
Like you can make it so much more expressive that way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
The way the tone. Yeah.
Here, I'll show you actually here. I'm working on this track. This is a little preview
on the exclusive release
that I'm working on.
Pre-release.
This is very pre. But here I'll show you. So you can hear what it sounds like. Let's see. Let's make sure QuickTime is routing into loopback. Yes, it is. Okay, so you can hear what that sort of sounds like.
Yes, dude.
Yeah, you
Yes.
hear that like the way the hi-hat goes between being a shaker and a hi-hat as the
Yeah.
velocity modulates it.
Yeah, that
it's
was
like
really
really
cool.
simple. Yeah, but yeah, you can do it in the Ableton sampler, but you have to go into the mod matrix and like use the time parameter, and then you just have a little bit of you have like a like a 1 or 2 millisecond attack time that you can't hear when it's at maximum velocity, and then the lower velocities, like if you modulate it to time, the lower velocities, it'll slow it down enough that you can start to hear the attack time. But you can't modulate the attack directly in Ableton. It's annoying. So it's another.
That is interesting.
Yeah, MPC can do a lot of stuff that only MPC can do.
Wow. That's a perfect marriage. I think you probably just made me go out and buy an MPC, honestly, right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, the standalone machine, I'm pretty fucking excited about that. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, I just got to wait for the new year because Native Instruments sold them all for Christmas, but they're gonna hook me up.
Hell yeah. Stoked. Thanks, Santa. Yeah. It's good to have friends like them.
Yeah, because that, I like the actual DAW better in Machine.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a lot of my best tracks in Machine.
Yeah, I still have Ableton students that use Machine for half their production.
Yeah, for phase 1, it's like
they love it. Yeah, yeah. Nice. So as far as like third-party plugins go, like what if you couldn't like live without like say 2 or 3? What would you choose for mixing, and then also just for
mixing? Soothe too.
Yes,
100%. Like
they sponsored the podcast actually. A great company.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, they make great stuff, and they're
it's spendy, but it's worth it.
It really is.
So for those of you who don't know what Soothe 2 does, Soothe 2 basically is like a de-esser will remove the harsh sibilance that comes out when you compress audio signals, because basically the S parts of the sound are usually much quieter than the open vowel parts of the sound, and then when you compress it, that reduction or that difference is reduced, and you get like a sharp, painful sibilance that sounds really bad at volume.
It's the worst.
So a de-esser will listen for that specific frequency, and when that specific frequency jumps up, the de-esser pushes it down. Well, the problem is that sibilance, that's characteristic of speech, but other sounds have resonant frequencies that can max out and can, especially as this sound is run through compression and other processes, those resonant peaks will jump out. It's especially problematic in like bell sounds or anything else that has like kind of pure a weight towards the fundamental, like a pure tone or almost pure tone can get really, really sharp. So Soothe is kind of dynamically turning those peaks down as they occur wherever they occur, and not just in the sibilant frequency of like 6 to 8K, because you might have an annoying peak at 2K. You don't know.
All the time, especially on vocals or hi-hats or whatever else mud pies you're making. Who knows?
Yeah, so I use that. So for mixing, I'd say that's my go-to. I mean, and usually most things have OTT and Soothe both.
Yeah, like Ableton's OTT multi-band dynamics preset, or
but, I'd say like it's almost its own plugin at this point.
It kind of is, yeah.
And then are you talking third party only? Because the Ableton Echo effect I use probably
same.
Ableton
I love
Echo effect.
You just turn up that feedback, you can get that nice little build up riser.
You can get the modulation tab, man. There's some good shit in there, like LFOing things. You can add vibrato to like your master. That kind of shit sounds wild.
That's hot. Yeah, honestly, the chorus ensemble is really cool. It has that vibrato built into it as well for 11 with that new device. I'm gonna be playing with that. Cool. That's my new go-to as well.
Yeah. So let's see what other third-party ones that are like Desert Island. I mean, probably Serum, obviously. I'd say like if I'm using soft synths, I normally use Serum. And then so we got
as far as your bass sounds, what's like your go-to bass instrument?
Hardware.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah, always hardware. And I normally am processing a sine wave, a hardware sine wave. I'll start with a sine wave, and then through, various techniques like, sine compression or, adding amplitude modulated white noise to the top layer or whatever, I'll create top end out of the sine wave. And then that way the top end is phase locked, and you don't have to do that thing where you make a nice sounding mid-range synth and then you have to like copy all the bends and stuff and try and keep your sub in phase with it. Forget about it.
Yeah.
So I normally we use like a Moog oscillator, or the SH-101 has if you turn the filter resonance up until it like self oscillates, you can get like a really, really juicy sort of a sound. So I'll use that and tune it. Nice. But yeah, I use for subs and stuff, I use hardware.
Do you find yourself recording like synth bass analog hardware and then changing the BPM and slowing it down quite a bit and then having to retrack because it just stretches and creates artifacts?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't like when I'm recording bass, I'm just recording no intervals, nothing. Like I just record like a long tone.
Yeah.
And then I will sample that. And then I have all of these different, like here I can start screen sharing, right? Screen sharing again.
Let's do it.
So if I go to SH-101, let's see if I have bass here. SH-101 saw.
So you're playing back most of your basses in like a simpler sampler.
Yeah.
Then. Nice.
Yeah, I'll make these sampler instruments for myself. So this one here, you can see that these are, oh wait, here I gotta go turn that channel on. Yeah, there we go. So each one of these is a different, like I've made a long recording, and then these are, each one of those has a loop, you can see where it holds.
Gotcha.
And I've gone with the tuner, and like, they've all been tuned. So.
Ooh, it's got a nice pluck to it.
Yeah.
It's very transient.
At the beginning, yeah.
It's hot.
And like, it's just the fucking weight that you get with the SH-101.
Yeah, man.
Crazy. Like there's no substance. Like I do shootouts, I'm constantly looking for like, what is the best sine wave I can make? What is the best square wave I can make? What is the best saw wave I can make? And I'll do shootouts between like hardware synths and software synths and stuff. And the actual, just like the waveforms out of those old school Japanese Roland circuits, there's something
thick.
There's just something different about them. Like I don't think we even know what it is that makes them better, because even the Roland modeling of their SH-101, like in the SH-01A, the little boutique one, it does a pretty good job, but
yeah,
it's not like, it just doesn't sound like the actual old school SH-101. And it's good enough that I'll forgo fucking MIDI. Like
you're giving up convenience at that point.
Yeah, totally.
For sure. The sacrifices we make, first world producers, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think that, digital is really good. VSTs are really good, but there's just something about the quality of true analog that like, it's always even just a tiny
the imperfections.
Bit
it's the imperfections.
Yeah.
And like things are always a little bit out of tune, and it's always like, there's a little bit of wiggle and wobble, and like, there's like, I think people don't really appreciate how historically anomalous high fidelity audio is, right? Because we're just so used to everything sounding fucking perfect.
Yeah.
Crisp highs and deep sub bass and shit. Like sub bass was not a fucking thing outside of like thunderstorms and explosions. Like they didn't like in classical music, they just don't even write any notes that are below 100 hertz because they couldn't make them, And fun fact, most symphonies these days have someone with a Moog off stage who's like doubling up the super low bass parts that the bass can't hit.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I want to have that job. I want to have that job. Just the guy
with not the most glamorous.
I mean, but like,
you go to the bar after, you'd be like, you remember that one bit? That was me.
I hit that note on that Moog behind the curtain. Yeah. I'd still do it.
They're exchanging looks with the fucking cymbal person. They're like,
just like, hell yeah, dude.
It's almost time. Oh, I'm going to get him good.
Wait for it.
Wait.
Just one big finger right there.
Yeah.
Game over. That's awesome.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's glamorous.
But yeah, so I mean, people don't really appreciate that shit. So like, if you're making music and you're using all these really hi-fi presets and hi-fi fucking samples and shit, because like, let's say you're making a commercial sound library, right? And you want to make a library of kicks. Your kicks are competing with other people's kicks. So comparison is the thief of joy, right? So your kick needs to have more transient than the other guys. It needs to have more sub than the other guys. It needs to have more stereo image than the other guys. It needs to have more highs than the other guys. And it just needs to fucking be like, and you just end up making these kicks that like in the context of a floor of kicks, like, yep, that one's the most, right?
Yeah.
So then you take the kick that's the most and you put it into context with the snare that's the most and the hi-hats that are the most and the bass patch that's the most.
It's just a lot.
All perfectly fucking hi-fi.
Yeah.
Like the psychoacoustics are all fucking wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And sounds don't go because they're the same. They go because they're different from each other. They're, you know, and like you listen to like a Pink Floyd record or whatever, you know, the guitar is not trying to, you know, have bass, you know, the drums, like, you know, yeah, the hi-hat might have transient, but the kick and the snare probably aren't trying to have huge transients, you know, and like the bass sounds, you know, they're like the sounds are kind of staying out of each other's way because they're not all trying to be the most all the time.
Right.
They're not trying to compete to be bought off of a shelf. They're trying to work together to make a song. And things go because they're different. And what makes something sound good in a mix is going to make it sound bad in the context of a sample archive on the shelf at fucking whatever commercial sample maker store, right?
Yeah.
And that's why people who make music with fucking presets, their shit sounds like clashing and jangly and fucking all over the place, is because all these presets are trying to sound the most. And this person's like, you know what? All these other sounds sound the most. My kick doesn't sound the most anymore. Let's turn that shit up.
Yeah. If you just
like,
make
no,
it,
motherfucker, turn everything else down. Take those transients off. Make shit mono. Run it through the cabinet plugin. Make it sound lo-fi. Make it sound bad. Make it sound broken. Get it off the grid. You know, and all that shit is what makes a mix sound good. It's not that everything's fucking perfectly off the shelf.
Right.
Like yawn.
Yeah, no, and I think like, especially even for me starting out mixing, I think I struggled with analysis paralysis because of that. It's because like, oh, everything has to be super polished and perfect all the time. And like a lot, and that's not
the worse, the better, man. Like, bad is good.
Yeah. And that's one thing I love about your philosophy, and like the ill.Gates theology is really just like
theology now. Well, just, you know, bass is God.
Really? Yeah.
To be fair.
I mean, yeah, it's like,
did you know I'm actually a priest? I've
You're
officiated weddings and shit. Yep.
Really?
Yeah, I run the Church of Bass, so it's funny.
That's amazing. Yeah, dude. I'll definitely come to your church.
Established in 2012 with the Church of Bass tour and the Church of Bass EP.
So you're ordained.
Yes, I'm an ordained minister.
That's amazing.
Weddings, including at Shambhala, the couple who created PK Sound and run the Village stage, Jeremy and Erica. They got married before Shambhala in a Star Wars themed wedding, and I was the priest at the village at Shambhala at a Star Wars themed wedding.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So do you watch The Mandalorian too then?
I haven't actually. I saw the first episode, but to be honest, I try and stay away from the shows that make you want to binge them because that's just studio hours.
No, you're right. You're right. No, you're 100% right. I feel like I'm way behind on pretty much every show my friend watches because of that.
But Expanse is my big binge one, man. That shit is fucking
The Expanse?
Awesome. Expanse, yeah. It's like,
Expanse, I haven't seen that.
It's like humans have colonized the solar system but have not spiritually progressed at all. So it's just like space capitalism just fucking grinding everybody's life into dust. It's great.
This is like modern times, basically.
Yeah, but space.
But space, cool.
Yeah,
right on.
Everybody wants to kill each other. They all hate each other. Like the people in the asteroid belts, like they're like space miners. They hate all the people in the inner planets. And then the Martians hate the people from Earth because they're all descended from scientists and shit. right? Whereas the people from Earth have just like totally fucking, there's no jobs or anything. So everybody's just on fucking welfare and they're just like ruining the fucking already ruined planet. The people on Mars are like, you idiots had a perfectly good planet. And now we're terraforming fucking Mars. You suck.
It sounds
of course they hate the people from Earth.
Yeah, it's rational. Honestly, it sounds like a Rick and Morty episode.
It's great. It's great. But yeah, that's that. So I'm like, I got super hooked on that shit. And then I was like, oh man, I just can't take people's recommendations, or I'll just fucking hours just slipping through my fingers.
Yeah.
People are like, do you snowboard? That. I'm like, nope. I'm studio hobby. When that snow starts falling, I'm like, great. No one's coming over. Get in the studio.
Yeah, that makes sense. You just have like a screen image on your desktop of you snowboarding.
I have pictures of mountains. I think we all do.
That's your snowboarding time. It's just looking at yourself when you used to snowboard. Yeah, but I guess like a couple quick questions, and I want to respect your time because I know we're both really busy. But what advice would you give to some producers that feel like they're stuck or they have creative blocks? Because I hear that a lot. I'm sure you hear that a lot too. Like, what's your answer for something like that?
I mean, I get that it can feel like you have a creative block, but to be honest, that's actually just like a rationalization of procrastination. Just like you know, people are like, oh, I'm a perfectionist, you know, like all that shit is like, it's just like, shut up and get to work. Like that's professionals, they just get to work. You just get to work. Like inspiration comes from results. It comes from momentum. If you just use whatever your strategies are to get the process rolling and something exciting happens, you will become inspired because something exciting happened.
Yeah.
Right? If you're sitting there waiting to be inspired, whatever, you're just going to wait the rest of your life, you know? Like, and if you're bored with the results that your techniques are yielding, go study, go learn something new, go watch some YouTubes until you find something interesting, play with that until it becomes exciting, you know? Like to just be like, the world's just not stimulating enough. I'm just going to wait around to be stimulated until I get a wild hair and then I'm going to start writing music. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Dude, the world doesn't owe you that.
Yeah.
Like, fucking don't be lazy.
You know? That's some like tough dad love right there.
Yeah, for real, dude. Like, I'm not here to sugarcoat shit.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. That's true. I've experienced that for myself too. Is like I see a lot of people who just give up because they're not willing to put in the hours of the work. It's like you kind of expect like 1 + 2 = 3, and I'm just gonna always like plug in the same little beep boop boop code, and then it pops out the same result. Music doesn't really work like that.
You gotta. I mean, if you separate your time into daytime and nighttime sessions, it's a big part of what I teach too. Where like,
I love that.
Set aside full days for writing. Start as early as you can. Put a lot of intention in it. Try not to like read the news. Try not to put too much decision-making effort into your breakfast. Try not to like think about anything else except for that track. If you take breaks, like don't listen to competing music within your genre. Go for a walk, do the dishes, you know, but don't do anything that requires thought or decision making because you have a finite amount of decision points per day. And if you exhaust that shit, you're useless. And, you know, to finish a track is just decision without hesitation. So don't waste any of your decision points. And just fucking go. Don't do anything that's going to sidetrack your process. So then that means that in your nighttime sessions, you need to do everything that's to make that as efficient as possible and to make it so you have to make as few decisions as possible. So in your nighttime sessions, that's when you make drum kits, sample synthesizers, play with new plugins, you know, practice your finger drumming, make drum kits, make a beat for later, write some lyrics for later, you know, record a bunch of fucking laser noises, whatever, right? Yeah. But you have all that shit ready so that when you start, you're just like, oh, let's just fucking put all the Lego pieces together, off we go, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And then it's just so much faster and more fun to produce when you're not stuck in preset land all day.
Yeah, and then the fact that you're watching something magically come together where before there was nothing, that's exciting.
Yeah.
That's inspiring.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, totally, man. Totally. Well, like 2020 has kind of been a shit show. I think we all know that. We all acknowledge that. We don't have to talk about it.
It was great. Spent the whole time just getting everything I wanted handed to me on a silver platter. It was
yeah,
awesome.
I was on a cruise ship the whole year. It was awesome. It was great. Yeah. No, but
diarrhea propellant to cruise ships.
Yeah, pretty much. But like, it's been a weird year. How have you seen everything in the midst of 2020 impact the music industry? And what does that mean for, say, like independent artists? Like, what does that look like?
Dude, I mean, I got my ass handed to me. I was touring 3 shows a week to fucking pay for that giant warehouse that I had.
Yeah.
That sucked. Yeah, I mean, yeah, dude, I know people who were like getting 10 grand a show that are packing groceries now. Like,
That's
it's
crazy,
fucking
man.
brutal. Like,
Crazy.
It's just brutal. So, I mean, there's going to be a lot of openings when things open up again, but a lot of people I know who are like, they're like, I don't want to go back to being a booking agent. You know, I don't want to go back to being a fucking bartender. I don't want to go back. Like, it's not like it's not like they're just going to hit go and it's going to turn on like a switch. Like, the whole industry got fucking gutted, man, you know? And then, of course, Saudi Arabia buys up $500 million worth of Live Nation stock when they're bleeding out their ass. So now we have good old MBS telling us what we can say or not on stage. What could go wrong?
Yeah, that sounds like a perfect marriage.
Yeah. Because that was the whole thing, like with the NBA when LeBron was like, hey, guys, shut up about Hong Kong. You're going to fuck up my sneaker deal. You know, like that's how they get you, right?
Yeah.
So they get you.
That's crazy.
Terrible.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that looks like for Live Nation. Obviously, they're not some small fish.
No. But yeah, so it's good. I don't know. I mean, we'll see how things. Like, I'm personally like, I don't want to get into a situation where I have to be on the road to like, because I mean, when you make it past like $1,000 a show, the shit's fucking really exciting. Like when it first happens, and you're like, oh my god, I want to play all the shows. And you start doing the math. And you're like, oh yeah, you know, if I play like 3 shows a week, it's like 150 grand a year. Like, holy fuck, for 3 days a week partying, sign me up. And then you just end up like playing like as many shows as you can. So I mean, I did that for like 10, 12 years, like just seeing how far I could take it and everything. And it was great. And man, I made more money than I ever thought I was going to make. I didn't think I thought I was going to be like hand to mouth life of poverty the whole fucking time, you know? And then to just have that go from like fucking like 20 grand a month to like nothing, like just fucked my life up.
Yeah.
And the whole time, because they're like, oh yeah, it's 2 months. It's just another 3 months, etc. I stayed in this like huge, expensive fucking living situation and just like watched my bank accounts just like empty, bro.
Damn, man.
Terrible. Like,
I'm so sorry, dude.
It just fucked my whole life up.
That sucks, man.
And then of course the fucking guy who gave me my biggest break in the music industry, I have 8 collabs with and was like fucking most known to be associated with. Of course, his fucking dirty laundry comes out, and then it's like,
it's really dirty laundry.
People being like, hey, you know, you got to say something. You're a dad. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I do. And then fucking, then so I speak up and I'm like the only artist who fucking says anything. Yeah. And then suddenly I've got like the wrath of the fucking wooks, like people sending me death threats and pictures of the shit they just took. And
stupid, man.
It was awful. Like,
that's fucking, so messed up, man.
I was like, oh yeah, this is really, really what I need after fucking losing my job
man,
and everything.
Like the last thing you needed was more bass trolls just to come out and attack you. Like,
yeah, totally, dude.
I'm sorry.
But honestly, I get almost as much shit for promoting mask wearing as I do for fucking standing up to bass nectar. I
don't understand that. It can only help. It's not going to hurt anybody. Yeah.
It's insane. And like people have the most crazy logic about it too. Like they'll be like, okay, well, when you wear a mask, right, it's cutting down the oxygen to your brain, which it's not. And you're getting bacteria in the mask, which you're huffing. So wearing the mask is giving you brain damage from lack of oxygen, and it's making you sick. And then I'll be like, okay, so surgeons must be really dumb and sick then, because they wear those exact masks all day.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, no.
But they're superhuman. They're not
And then
real.
you're like, well, what is your argument? You're like, it makes no fucking sense, these arguments. Like, they make no fucking sense.
Right. No, I totally agree. I think when people are in really stressful situations and going through a lot of crap in life, they kind of like develop sometimes their own rationale, which isn't always logical. And I've seen that happen a lot, like in the midst of the pandemic and everything. But I think the thing that gives me a little bit of hope is I think eventually, whenever it comes back, when we do start having more live shows, I think people are going to appreciate it on a whole new level because it's been gutted for so long. Like,
yeah, I am not taking that shit for granted again, ever, you know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you know, I've been doing a lot more studio work, and like I've been really like, we doubled down on the dojo and made so much cool shit that would never have happened if it weren't for the fact that all of us in the dojo, it's now our full-time job. You know? Like, it always used to be a kind of side hustle for me, and you know, just like a passion project. Like, I really, you know, I wanted to give people the leg up and the access to the knowledge and the opportunities that I never had coming up, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of started it to do that, and then, you know, I realized a few years ago too that, like, I was like, man, you know, like I taught Lauren fucking Ableton before he's fucking, like, when he used to DJ for $500 and stay on my couch. And like, you know, I taught Beast Antique how to run their first live set. I taught Mimosa. Fucking G Jones and fucking Minnesota came to my workshop back when G Jones was Grizzly J and shit. I was like, man, if I'd been putting out music from these motherfuckers, like, think about what it'd been like years later to be like, yeah, all their first records,
that was
my label, right?
That
so I
was
was like, okay, I gotta start a label. So, you know, so I started the label, and then, you know, the quality level has just been getting crazy. And
it's awesome, man.
You know, and like some of the, like Ionize, he's dojo, you know, and he's got way more fans than I do now. Like the remix I did for him is almost 3 million views on YouTube now. Like, it's fucking crazy.
Cool. That's really cool, dude.
So he's killing it. Unk is a beast. That dude is blowing up right now. Like, he's really doing well. Sixth Street is doing well too. He's like dialed in with all these dance channels and stuff.
Hell yeah.
So it's been, you know, so we started doing these like record label showcases and started our own streaming network, Dojo TV.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome. You stream every week, don't you, on Twitch?
Yeah, there's lots of different. Well, no, we do it on our own site.
On your own site, okay.
Yeah, because Twitch is cool, but it's like, I want people in our system.
Yeah.
You know, like,
get those
I don't
emails.
just hand all my fucking traffic to Bezos. Like, that guy doesn't need my fucking traffic.
Right. Yeah. I mean, own your own content, right?
Yeah. And it's like, I'm not
I feel that.
I don't care if people go to Twitch and measure how many followers I have. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I know how many followers I have on my mailing list and on my internal dojo shit.
Right.
And they're worth way more to me there.
Yeah.
And we get control. Like, it's amazing how quick people are to just volunteer control over their life to these fucking pathological billionaires. Like, fucking, you know, Zuckerberg's just like, oh yeah, nice following you have there. Shame if something happened to it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know, Facebook's free, and it always will be, unless you want to actually reach your fans. Then it costs hundreds of dollars per post.
Then you can, no, exactly. Dude, I've run into that too. I spent a lot of ad traffic going to my audience, engaging my people, and now I'm like, no, I'm just going for emails now. Like,
emails are way better. And it's just like, I don't know, man. It's just, that shit's so fucked up. So, you know, I'd been kind of backburnering my own, because like, I used to do my teaching and stuff on Patreon, and then I basically broke the Patreon system because I had too much content, and my links were getting out. And then, I share my videos on YouTube, and some person scraped my YouTube and like had all my music lessons on some blog and shit.
What?
And and then people, like, I would see all my stuff like making the rounds and stuff. Like, I'd post it, and then like a week later it would be out. So I was like, damn, I need to secure
Yeah.
thing where like all my content's organized and it's behind a paywall. And so a couple of my students built the website for me on spec. They were just like, yo, you gotta do this. Like, we're gonna fix your shit right now.
On Kajabi, right?
We had a pretty good relationship. They were working for a bit. They've since moved on to do other things. But they introduced me to this guy named Dave. And Dave, he's Dave Ray, and he's been just instrumental in the transformation of the dojo. He's like my full-on partner now.
Awesome.
And he does like internet marketing and stuff, but he's also been to like recording engineer school, and
yeah,
so he knows the music business. And he and I were both like, man, there's so many things that are like broken about the music business, like the gatekeeping, the predatory, like just rinsing people for cash and all that shit. It's just
that's crazy.
It's really bothered me, and just that whole like trickle down fame economics pecking order bullshit just sucks. Like it's whack, So we really wanted to develop solutions for that, and then also solutions for artists to be able to retain control of everything. Because like Bandcamp is cool, but you can't do everything at Bandcamp. Like you can't put up teaching hours, you can't put up sound packs, you can't, like or presets or whatever. You can't, So, so we made this new website, the producerdj.com marketplace. So Producer Dojo is like my record label and my personal training project. And then producerdj.com is a website where all of my friends are building profiles and putting up their sound packs and their teaching hours and their music and their videos and stuff.
Right on.
So we're right at the end. Like if you watch this when it's coming out, it's probably like it's nearly done. But if you're watching this like a couple months from now, you should check it out. It'll probably be like open. But there's a bunch of people that are making pretty good money now. And you can just like, it's just artists are totally in control of their profile. We don't have investors to answer to that are trying to like, be the bourgeoisie. It's just like totally by artists, for artists, artist controlled. Put the power in their hands. And I know that it's useful enough that I'm not going to have to be like breaking the bank on advertising, because it's like there's just nothing like it. And I don't think anyone's going to build anything like it with startup capital, because they'll have investors to answer to, and then it's just not going to be in the artist's favor. Because it's like, because even Patreon, I love Patreon, but it's essentially just a payment processor. There's no paywall to put your videos behind or whatever. You can post a private YouTube thing with a password, but if that link and password get out, too bad.
Well, even like a simple Wix website, you could still create a membership in that, and then you can also monetize, and probably you can make more per transaction than you would on Patreon by having that, even and owning that content for sure. Through a paywall.
For sure. Yeah, keeping control of your shit is essential. So so we're not doing no exclusivity or anything, and like people like, because if we produce the content with them as like a Producer Dojo product within the Producer DJ marketplace, then that's different. But in terms of like, we're just give people the keys, be like, here, do it, do what you want with it. Here's all the infrastructure.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, so we got KJ Saka's using it a lot. Lisa Vasquez, she's like an MPC finger drummer battle person. She's been killing it on there.
Right on.
Ahi on there. Oh man, we got
Ahi was on the podcast too.
Dude, that guy's a beast, man.
Yeah, he is. He's hilarious too. I love that guy.
And he's really just like a good person.
He is. Yeah. No, we were hanging out. He was like house sitting for a friend and on a chicken farm. So he was talking about sampling his chickens. We could hear him during the podcast.
Chickens are surprisingly percussive.
They are. They really are. Yeah. Sylvia Massey, she made a whole entire like infographic on how to mic a chicken.
Yo, here, you want to hear some music I made with chickens? Here, I'll see if I can get it.
Hell yeah, dude. The chicken dance.
So let's see. Yeah,
I sampled some geese last year. I had some good goose samples if you need some.
Nice. So I was working for Microsoft for the Windows Phone at one point, doing ringtones for the Windows Phone.
Yes. It's a good story, actually.
I was making comedy ringtones, and this is one of my comedy ringtones. This is called Funky Farm.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. That was a banger.
That shit goes hard.
That slaps, dude. That slaps. Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you for that, honestly.
Yeah, no problem.
I might have to purchase the rights for that and then swap out the intro music for this podcast. Maybe I'll just use that for every intro.
Okay, I'll leave you another one. This is the cat themed one, which I really wanted to call kitty porn, but I don't think they would have appreciated it.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's a good. I liked a good set of chimes.
Ridiculous.
That's amazing.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah.
The dog one is pretty fun too. Here, I'll show you the dog one. What? Oh, they're so dumb. They're so dumb.
That's amazing. Wait,
it was fun. It was a fun gig.
Did you record all those animal samples yourself, or you just find them online?
No, I just copyright free, fucking a lot of freesound.org and stuff.
I'm picturing you just like chasing like a dog around with a field recorder mic. You're just like trying to get him to bark at you.
I did record my own farts though.
I know you
all original. All original.
See, that's impressive. Did you like pitch your farts and everything? And
no, they're
just raw,
just raw, straight
raw audio.
A little bit of EQ.
Okay. EQ. Yeah, some compression.
Yeah, they sound
some saturation. Hopefully, not too much saturation.
No, you don't. Have to but yeah, good times. Good times.
That's so great. Yeah, and you sold that to Bill Gates.
Well, Microsoft. I sold
Microsoft, right?
Microsoft, which is essentially Bill.
And that's kind of how the ill.Gates name came about, right?
No, the ill.Gates name was before, which is how the gig came about.
Yes,
so,
that's right.
At Burning Man, being named ill.Gates, people from Silicon Valley partying. That's how I met my friend Danielle, who was one of my best friends, and she was working at the Windows Phone and Bing, or she was working at Bing. Her sister was working at Windows Phone, so I ended up also working for her sister and getting the gig doing ringtones. And then
that's an amazing story, man.
Comedy ringtones, and
that's amazing.
Farts are funny.
Everybody loves fart noises.
Yeah, everybody loves a fart ringtone.
Can you download like
no? They're all long gone. The Windows Phone is long gone. They're all long gone. Like it probably won't even set off the copyright detection algorithms.
Gone like the wind. Yeah. Well, that's too bad. Well, man, what upcoming projects do you have? Like last but not least.
I got a bunch of new music. I got a release on Subsidia that is coming out next week.
Nice.
With Echo Zoo. It's like a big like vocal tune. Probably took me longer than any other song since I was like, knew what I was doing.
Wow, that says something.
So yeah, it's like probably at least 100, maybe 150 hours on that one. So that one, that's pretty exciting.
When does that come out?
That is, I think, January 6th.
Okay.
Dope. So there's that, and then there's the Ahi release, which is I think the same week. So those are both pretty big.
Nice.
Then this guy Mammoth, Mammy.
Yeah, I know Mammoth.
He's got a release coming out on the Dojo record label. That's our first LP on the Dojo label.
Oh, nice.
He was trying to do an EP, and the tracks were just so good I couldn't choose. So I was like, I want all of them.
Yeah.
He's got this LP that is just like fucking so clear and just like perfect transients and really nice melodies and stuff.
That's wonderful.
It's really, really well done.
We love that.
I've got my full-length album, but that has been delayed because I'm working on that remix for Ionize that I played a little fragment of to show you the hi-hat thing.
Yeah.
That remix.
That was dope.
In the next couple of days. Yeah, it's good. It's a trap song about cooking up crack and selling it. It's great. It's got 42 Doug on it, and then Raekwon's brother Des Eagle, and then this dude Tefon Jacobs, whose fucking rhymes are so great. Like he's kind of pretty unknown, but he's like a writer. He writes for a lot of big people. Yeah. And then I think I was like his like 9th follower on Spotify. Like he just
oh wow
his verse, I cannot stop thinking about his verse. It's so great. Like he's just got he's just got great style and just really visual rhymes. Like I think
Yeah.
rap music should be visual.
I agree. Yeah, like tell a good story,
Yeah, totally.
I agree.
And I love a good rap song about selling crack, like
You that too. Yeah, you got to mix it up. Yeah.
Conscious rap just it's great, but it comes like it's a little bit like when you're rapping about like the universe and shit. I'm just like, oh God, come on, dude. Like, it just sounds so much better when it's about selling crack. Like I don't sell crack. I don't smoke crack. I think crack sucks. I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone.
I wouldn't either.
But it's like, you gotta understand the fucking systemic racism that led to rap music being the most reliable reporting on the realities of the inner city.
That's true, though.
It's just like a documentary, man. It's not
real.
Like, hey, this is glorious. It's like this is the problem.
It's not sugar coated. Yeah, that's true, man. That's true.
So yeah, I love it. Like, because I remember when I first heard that song Coco, I was like, this is the fucking dumbest song I've ever heard. And then the second time I heard it, I was like, this is the greatest song I've ever heard. And then I remember I was in Richmond, Virginia, and I always like when I go west to east, I'll fly in a day early because of weather and because of just like, triple connector or whatever. You don't want to take any chances, man. Like I don't miss sets. Yeah. I don't. Like I've been DJing, fucking playing shows for 20 years. I've missed under 5. And they're all like hospitalization or border issues. You know?
Shit. Yeah.
Like they're not, I don't miss sets unless
that's a good record.
Absolutely necessary. Yeah. So I come in early and I'm like, I'm reading at this restaurant across from the hotel, and there's this door that opens and all these like, it's like Friday night or whatever. And all these dudes like come out and they got like the full, like night on the town black guy suit on, and they're coming out and they're like, oh yeah, I'll take another round of Hennessy. And then they disappear in the door. I'm like, why the fuck does this door keep going in with all these dudes who are obviously like out to party, coming in here to get Hennessy? Like, what's up? So then one of the guys comes in and he's like, hey man, what you doing reading the book? It's Friday night. And I'm like, oh, I'm just, I'm playing a show tomorrow. I'm just chilling out. He's like, oh, you're a DJ, you like to party? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, there's a party next door. It's so packed. I'm coming around here to get my Hennessy. Here, I'll buy you a Hennessy. I'm like, all right. So the guy buys me a Hennessy, and then we open the door, and it's like this packed club, just all black people. I'm like the only white guy there. And the dude who's like my gregarious host or whatever, is just like super welcoming, super nice, introduces me to all his friends. They all have these like rad suits on and shit with like the matching hats and
hell yeah
and stuff. So we're partying, fucking drinking Hennessy, have so much fun. And like, like being the only white guy in an all black club is a fucking great experience. Like they love you, man. Yeah. Like they're so stoked. They're just like, oh my God, look at you out of your element. Like, this is, like let's fucking party. It's a great experience. I've been the only white guy in black clubs many times.
That sounds great.
And anyway, so we're partying. I'm getting pretty drunk. And then the end of the night comes and it's like fucking last call and the lights come on and the DJ drops that Coco song. And this was like, right when it came out, and as soon as that, I'm in love with the Coco, fucking people literally threw drinks in the air, fucking climbing on the tables and bars, like just pounding on the fucking walls and screaming. And the bartender's just like, fucking boom, boom, just like dicking out shots. I was like, holy fuck, this song has some power, man.
Yeah, people are going nuts.
Yeah, it was like that place exploded. It was awesome.
That sounds fun. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that just doesn't happen with conscious hip hop. Doesn't happen.
No, you're right. That's true. People are all like introspective and thinking about life. Yeah. Less
get
dancing.
Their backpack on. Yeah. Scratch their chin. Pass a joint to someone. Be like, this shit, man.
This shit. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Well,
love a good song about crack. Love a song about it.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. You got to mix it up. But dude, I appreciate you, man, jumping on the podcast. It's so good seeing you. I want to respect your time and everything else. I'm excited for the dojo. Seems like you're helping a lot of artists right now doing some cool things.
ProducerDojo.com. That's where you can get all the info. And then my class I teach every week is theweeklydownload.com. $20 gets you access to the whole archive of all the sound packs that I've made, all the classes. This week is 212. So there's a lot.
It's
There's a weekly
download
on basically every single subject you can think of.
Yeah.
So
that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So that's like $20. So that's pretty fucking unbeatable valuable for $20.
Yeah, man.
Yes. And then producerdj.com if you want to like buy sound packs from different artists or book a one-off lesson or whatever.
Yeah. So on the socials, where's the best place for people to connect with you?
I'm at ill.Gates Music everywhere except for SoundCloud, where I'm at ill-Gates because it was started by a manager of mine like a billion years ago. So all the other ones match. They're all at ill.Gates Music, but SoundCloud is ill-Gates.
Nice.
ill.Gates.com. It's a great place to get my music for free. There's like a big folder that you can just sign up for the mailing list and get a big folder of tunes. But yeah, SoundCloud, Spotify, definitely SoundCloud and Spotify is where I kind of prefer people come check me out because it's all about that music, You don't need to see what I fucking cook for breakfast unless you're into that thing. #IllPlates, #IllPlates, all up on IG.
Yeah.
Fucking, I love cooking. So
yeah, man. Cooking in the studio or cooking up with the fam. You've got a lot of great posts of you and your dog and all those things.
Yes. Yeah, lots of dogs.
If you want to follow Dylan and his dog, go to ill.Gates. Yeah. Yes. But yeah, man. Also, you have some live streams coming up. I saw you have a winter charity stream happening.
Yeah. I got tons of them. And then fun fact, if you want to replay all of my audio video sets that I've created, those are available on my Patreon only. But there's like a good probably like 6 hours of video performances there.
That's a lot.
You can't put them on YouTube, right? Because of all the copyright issues and stuff. Like if I use I'm not going to clear every single VJ clip I bought from every library. I'm not going to clear like let's say I play one of my friend's samples. Am I really going to fucking contact their record label and get all for every single get in writing for every single fucking thing clear?
No.
So so there's just Dropbox links in my Patreon.
Dope.
So yeah, and I've been doing all these themed sets. I did a Black Lives Matter set that was pretty dope with all the rap music that came out immediately in the fall, like during the George Floyd.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw you promote that.
Yeah, that set was pretty heavy duty. And then I don't play unreleased music unless it's like secret because people cut my tracks out. That's why I stopped streaming my studio sessions. People cut my fucking tracks out and hosted them on their channels.
Dude, it's music.
And when I put it out, I'm getting copyright strikes from my own fucking music because someone stole that shit.
Yeah, that's no good. That's no good. Like, yeah, bro, I made that beat. That's all me. That's all me.
Yeah, it was so bad. This one kid,
it's a bummer.
Yeah. And then he's like, I went to his thing and I go to the About Me and he's like, I'm dying of lupus. And my only joy is cutting tracks out of people's live streams and hosting them on my YouTube. I'm like, I can't even hate on them. I can't even put them on blast. Fucker.
Yeah, it's hard to hate somebody who's got some serious autoimmune.
I don't know. He could just be this asshole who thought
he's just made up the whole thing. Yeah, it's some 45-year-old guy in his underwear or something. It's not even real.
Totally.
It's possible.
Totally. Yeah, but what are you going to do?
Lives in his mom's basement. Well, dude, I appreciate you once again for your time and everything, man. It's been a long time coming, getting you on the podcast. I think people are going to love this. Yeah, always. And I'm going to post this probably, it would be the first Tuesday of the year. So whatever date that is.
Team, we'll make sure that gets a blast.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate you.
Peace out.
Take it easy, man. Peace. Later. Yo, thanks for listening to the podcast, everyone. Much love. If you want to purchase Ableton Live, maybe you don't own the latest and greatest version, go to liveproducersonline.com/buyableton. I'm happy to hook you up with a discount. I'll shoot you the serial code and you can start making some awesome music. And yeah, it's good to save money too. Really appreciate your support for future episodes. If you just want to hit subscribe, maybe leave a review if you're on Apple Podcasts or whatever. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you want to stay connected with more things, I'm also teaching a lot of Ableton Live. I'm going to be releasing mini courses and things like that. You can stay connected in the newsletter. Go to liveproducersonline.com/newsletter and you'll be the first to know with new episodes, new webinars I'm doing, all that fun jazz. Also, if you want to stay connected with me, I'm jumping on Zoom with all of my members once a week. and it's a good way to ask questions. We pick a topic that we dive into. You can also access all my downloads and all of the content and things that I've made. If you choose the pro membership, you can access all of what I said, plus all of my courses and everything I've made. So check that out, liveproducersonline.com. Have a super awesome week. I'll see you guys next time.